Sebastián Francisco de Miranda y Rodríguez de Espinoza, commonly known as Francisco de Miranda, was a military leader and Venezuelan revolutionary. Although his own plans for the independence of the Spanish-American colonies failed, he is regarded as a forerunner of Simón Bolívar, who during the Spanish-American Wars of Independence successfully liberated much of South America. Miranda led a romantic and adventurous life. He participated in three major historical and political movements of his time: the American Revolutionary War, the French Revolution, and the Spanish-American Wars of Independence. He described his experiences over this time in his journal, which reached to 63 bound volumes. An idealist, he developed a visionary plan to liberate and unify all of Spanish America, but his own military initiatives on behalf of an independent Spanish America ended in 1812. He was handed over to his enemies and 4 years later, died in a Spanish prison. Early life. Miranda was born in Caracas, Venezuela province, in the Spanish colonial viceroyalty of New Granada, and baptized on April 5, 1750. His father, Sebastián de Miranda Ravello, was an immigrant from the Canary Islands who had become a successful and wealthy merchant, and his mother, Francisca Antonia Rodríguez de Espinoza, was a wealthy Venezuelan. Growing up, Miranda enjoyed a wealthy upbringing and attended the finest private schools. However, he was not necessarily a member of high society. He faced some discrimination due to his Canarian roots, and his heritage was continually put into question by the Criollo aristocracy. Education. Miranda's father, Sebastián, always strove to improve the situation of the family, and in addition to accumulating wealth and attaining important positions, he ensured his children a college education. Miranda was first tutored by Jesuits, George Lindo and Juan Santaella, before entering the Academy of Santa Rosa. On January 10, 1762, Miranda began his studies at the Royal and Pontifical University of Caracas, where he studied Latin, the early grammar of Nebria, and the Catechism of Ripalda for 2 years. Miranda completed this preliminary course in September of 1764 and became an upperclassman. Between 1764 and 1766, Miranda continued his studies, studying the writings of Cicero and Virgil, grammar, history, religion, geography and arithmetic. In June of 1767, Miranda received his baccalaureate degree in the humanities. It is unknown if Miranda received the title of doctor, as the only evidence in favor of this title is his personal testimony stating he received it in 1767, at age 17. Issues of ethnic lineage. Beginning in 1767, Miranda's studies were disrupted in part due to his father's rising prominence in Caracas society. In 1764, Sebastián de Miranda was appointed the captain of the local militia known as the Company of the White Canary Islanders by the governor, José de Solano Wybot. Sebastián de Miranda directed his regiment for 5 years, but his new title and societal position bothered the white aristocracy. In retaliation, a competing faction formed a militia of its own, and 2 local aristocrats, Don Juan Nicolas de Pont and Don Martin Tovar Blanco, filed a complaint against Sebastián de Miranda. Sebastián de Miranda requested and was granted honorary military discharge to avoid further antagonizing the local elite, and spent many years attempting to clear the family name and establish the purity of his family line. In 1769, Sebastián produced a notarized genealogy to prove that his family had no African ancestors. The need to establish the purity of the family bloodline was important to maintain a place in society in Caracas, as it was what allowed the family to attend university, to marry marry in the church, and to attain government positions. In 1770, Sebastián won his family's rights through an official royal patent signed by Charles III, which confirmed Sebastián's title and societal standing. The court ruling, however, created an irreconcilable enmity with the aristocratic elite, who never forgot the conflict nor forgave the challenge, which inevitably influenced subsequent decisions by Miranda. First travels. After the court victory of his father, Miranda decided to pursue a new life in Spain, and, on January 25, 1771, Miranda left Caracas from the port of La Guaira for Cadiz, Spain, on a Swedish frigate, the Prince Frederick. Miranda landed at the port of Cadiz on March 1, 1771, where he stayed for 2 weeks with a distant relative, José de Nino, before leaving for Madrid. In Madrid, on March 28, 1771, Miranda came to Madrid and took an interest in the libraries, architecture, and art that he found there. In Madrid, Miranda pursued his education, especially modern languages, as they would allow him to travel throughout Europe. He also sought to expand his knowledge of mathematics, history, and political science, as he aimed to serve the Spanish crown as a military officer. During this time, he also pursued genealogical research of his family name to establish his ties to Europe and Christianity, which was especially important to him after his father's struggles to legitimize the family line in Caracas. It was in Madrid that Miranda began to build his personal library, which he added to as he traveled, collecting books, manuscripts and letters. In January of 1773, Miranda's father transferred 85,000 reals vellin to help his son obtain the position of captain in the princess's regiment. Early campaigns. During his first year as a captain, Miranda traveled with his regiment mainly in North Africa and the southern Spanish province of Andalusia. In December of 1774, Spain declared war with Morocco, and Miranda experienced his first combat during the conflict. While Miranda was assigned to guard the stations of an unwanted colonial presence in North Africa, he began to draw connections to the similar colonial presence in Spanish South America. His first military feat took place during the Siege of Melilla, held from December 9, 1774, to March 19, 1775, in which the Spanish forces managed to repel the Sultan of Morocco Mohammed bin Abdullah. However, despite the actions taken and danger faced, Miranda did not get an awarded promotion and was assigned to the garrison of Cadiz. Despite Miranda's success in the military, he faced many disciplinary complaints, ranging from complaints that he spent too much time reading, to financial discrepancies, to the most serious disciplinary charges of violence and abuse of authority. One of Miranda's well-known enemies was Colonel Don Juan Manuel de Cajigal, who charged Miranda with the loss of company funds and brutalities against soldiers in Miranda's regiment. The account of the dispute was sent to Inspector General O'Reilly and eventually reached King Charles III, who ordered Miranda to be transferred back to Cadiz. Missions in North America and Antilles. Spain became involved in the American Revolutionary War in order to expand their territories in Louisiana and Florida, to force Britain to maintain multiple simultaneous war fronts, and to seek a recovery of Gibraltar. The Spanish Captain General of Louisiana, Bernardo de Galvez, in 1779 attacked the British at Baton Rouge and Natchez, freeing the Mississippi River basin of hostile forces that could threaten its capital, New Orleans. Spanish forces had begun moving against the British, and Miranda was ordered to report to the Regiment of Aragon. which sailed from Cadiz in spring of 1780 under Victoriano de Navia's command. Miranda reported to his chief, General Juan Manuel Cajigal y Montserrat, in Havana, Cuba. For their headquarters in Cuba, the Cajigal and Miranda participated in the siege of Fort Pensacola on May 9, 1781, and Miranda was awarded the temporary title of Lieutenant Colonel during this action. Miranda also contributed to the French success of a naval battle at the Chesapeake Bay when he helped the Count de Grasse raise needed funds and supplies. Miranda remained prominent while in Pensacola, and in August of 1781, Cajigal secretly sent Miranda to Jamaica to arrange for the release of 900 prisoners, see to their immediate needs, and acquire English ships for the Spanish Navy. Miranda was also asked to perform espionage work while staying with his British hosts. Miranda managed to perform a successful reconnaissance mission and also negotiated an agreement, dated November 18, 1781, that regulated the exchange of Spanish prisoners. However, Miranda also entered into a deal with the British merchant Philip Orwood. Miranda agreed to use the ships he had secured from the British to transport Alwood's goods back to Spain to sell them. Upon his return, Miranda was charged with being a spy and smuggler of British goods. The order to send Miranda back to Spain pursuant to the judgment of February 5, 1782, of the Supreme Inquisition Council failed to be met due to various faults of form and substance in the administrative process that caused the order to be questioned and, in part, by Cajigal's unconditional support of Miranda. Miranda participated in the capture of the Bahamas and carried news of the island's fall to his superior Bernardo de Galvez. Galvez was angry that the Bahamas expedition had gone ahead without his permission, and he imprisoned Cajigal and had Miranda arrested. Miranda was later released, but this experience of Spanish officialdom may have been a factor in his subsequent conversion to the idea of independence for Spain's American colonies. The efficiency demonstrated by Miranda in the Bahamas led Cajigal to recommend that Miranda be promoted to colonel under the command of the general commander of the Spanish forces in Cuba, Bernardo de Galvez, in the town of Garrico. At the time, the Spaniards were preparing a joint action with the French to invade Jamaica, the last British stronghold in the Gulf of Mexico, and Garrico was the ideal place to plan these operations, being close to the island and providing easy access for troops and commanders. Miranda was seen as the right person to plan operations because he had a first-hand knowledge of the situation of the British in the area. However, a preemptive attack by the British and the difficulties of the French fleet forced peace between Britain and France. So the invasion did not materialize and Miranda remained in Garrico. With the failure of the invasion of Jamaica, priorities for the Spanish authorities changed, and the process of the Inquisition against Miranda became greater. Eventually Miranda's problems with the Inquisition became complicated and he was sent to Havana to be arrested and sent to Spain. For various reasons these plans were thwarted, and, fearing the imminence of his arrest, Miranda decided to go to the United States. With the support of Cajigal, he escaped the surveillance of the governor of Havana, and, aided by American James Seagrove who arranged the trip, he fled to New Bern, where he landed on July 10, 1783. During his time in the United States, Miranda made a critical study of its military defenses, which demonstrated extensive knowledge of the development of American conflict and circumstances. While there, Miranda prepared and fixed a correspondence technique used for the rest of his journey. He would meet people through the gift alone of books, and examine the culture and customs of the places through which he passed in a methodical way. Passing through Charleston, Philadelphia, and Boston, he dealt with different characters in American society. In New York City he met the prominent and politically connected Livingston family. Apparently Miranda had a romantic relationship with Susan Livingston, daughter of Chancellor Livingston. Although Miranda wrote to her for years, he never saw her again after leaving New York. During his time in the United States, Miranda met with many important people. He was personally acquainted with George Washington in Philadelphia. He also met General Henry Knox, Thomas Paine, Alexander Hamilton, Samuel Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. He also visited various institutions of the new nation that impressed him, such as the Library of Newport and Princeton College, Rhode Island College and Cambridge College. In Europe, United Kingdom, Prussia, Turkey and Russia. On December 15, 1784, Miranda left the port of Boston in the merchant frigate Neptuno for London and arrived in England on February 10, 1785. While in London, Miranda was discreetly watched by the Spanish, who were suspicious of him. The reports highlight that Miranda met with people suspected of conspiring against Spain and people considered among the eminent scholars of the time. The first secretary of the U.S. Embassy, Colonel William Stevens Smith, whom Miranda knew from his stay in New York, came to England at around the same time. Miranda and Smith decided to travel to Prussia to attend military exercises prepared by King Frederick the Great of Prussia. Bernardo del Campo, ambassador of Spain in the British capital since 1783, gave Miranda a letter of introduction to the Minister of Spain in Berlin, while James Penman, an English businessman whom Miranda had befriended in Charleston, was responsible for keeping his papers while he traveled. However, the Spanish ambassador had secretly intrigued to have Miranda arrested when he reached Calais, France, where he could be handed over to Spain. The plan fell apart because the Venezuelan and his friend went on the 10th of August 1785 to a Dutch port instead. Miranda then traveled throughout Europe, including present-day Belgium, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Poland, Greece and Italy, where he remained for over a year. After passing through Constantinople, he visited the court of Catherine the Great, which had moved at the time from Moscow to Kiev. In Hungary he stayed in the palace of Prince Nicholas Esterhazy, who was sympathetic to his ideas, and wrote him a letter of recommendation to meet the musician Joseph Haydn. Attempts to abduct Miranda by the diplomatic representatives of Spain failed, as the Russian ambassador in London, Semyon Vorontsov, declared on August 4, 1789, to the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, Francis Osborne, 5th Duke of Leeds, that Miranda, although a Spanish subject, was a member of the Russian diplomatic mission in London. In Russia, he used the surname Mirov, and he left several children who later emigrated to the United States and Argentina. Miranda made use of the Spanish-British diplomatic row known as the Nootka Crisis in February 1790 to present to some British cabinet ministers his ideas about the independence of Spanish territories in South America. Later on, after fighting for revolutionary France, Miranda made his home in London, where he had two children, Leandro and Francisco, with his housekeeper, Sarah Andrews, whom he later married. He was friends with the brother of Margaret Bulkley, who was living as James Barry. Miranda helped to keep her secret so that she could become a doctor. According to historian Linda de Pauw, Miranda was an ardent feminist, named women as his literary executors, and published an impassioned plea for female education a year before Mary Wollstonecraft published her famous Vindication of the Rights of Women. Miranda during the French Revolutionary period. Starting in 1791, Miranda took an active part in the French Revolution as Maréchal de Camp. In Paris, he befriended the Girondists Jacques-Pierre Brissot and Jérôme Pétion de Villeneuve, and he briefly served as a general in the section of the French Revolutionary Army commanded by Charles-François Dumouriez, fighting in the 1792 campaign of Valmy. The Army of the North commanded by Miranda laid siege to Antwerp. Miranda failed to take Maastricht in February 1793 and was first arrested in April 1793 on the orders of Antoine Quentin Fouquier-Tinville, chief prosecutor of the revolution, and accused of conspiring against the Republic with Charles-François Dumouriez, the renegade general. Though indicted before the Revolutionary Tribunal, and under attack in Jean-Paul Marat's L'Ami du Peuple, he and his lawyer Claude-François Chauveau-Lagarde conducted his defense with such calm eloquence that he was declared innocent. However, Marat denounced Chauveau-Lagarde as the liberator of the guilty. Even so, the campaign of Marat and the rest of the Jacobins against him did not weaken. He was arrested again in July 1793 and incarcerated in La Force prison, effectively one of the antechambers of death during the prevailing reign of terror. Appearing again before the tribunal, he accused the Committee of Public Safety of tyranny and disregarding his previous acquittal. Miranda seems to have survived by a combination of good luck and political expediency. The revolutionary government simply could not agree on what to do with him. He remained in La Force even after the fall of Robespierre in July 1794, and was not finally released until January of the following year. The art theorist Quatremere de Quincy was among those who campaigned for his release during this time. Now convinced that the whole direction taken by the revolution had been wrong, he started to conspire with the moderate royalists against the Directory, and was even named as the possible leader of a military coup. He was arrested and ordered out of the country, only to escape and go into hiding. He reappeared after being given permission to remain in France, though that did not stop his involvement in yet another monarchist plot in September 1797. The police were ordered to arrest the Peruvian general, as the said general submerged himself yet again in the underground. With no more illusions about France of the Revolution, he left for England in a Danish boat, arriving in Dover in January 1798. His name remains engraved on the Arc de Triomphe, which was built during the First Empire.